Hello and welcome to the Honest Talk. I'm Harsh Pandey. For this particular session, our guest will be Mr. Basudeb Mukherjee sir, who is here with us. Mr. Basudeb Mukherjee sir currently holds the position of in charge of international research at Confederation of Indian Industry. So first of all, sir, I welcome you to in this session. Thank you so much for joining and agreeing to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. It's our pleasure too. So, moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen is FDI good for Indian economy? A foreign direct investment is an investment made by a firm or an individual in one country into business interest located in any other country. Foreign direct investments are commonly made in open economies that offer a skilled workforce and above average growth prospect for the investors as opposed to tightly regulated economies. FDI in India is a major monetary source for the economic development of in India. Foreign companies invest directly in fast-growing private auspicious businesses to take benefits of cheaper wages and changing business environment of India. Economic liberalization is started in India in the wake of 1991 economic crisis, and since then FDI has steadily increased in India. So my very first question to you is FDI good for the Indian economy?
Absolutely. Actually, if you really look at it, India is capital scarce. Okay, there is, you need foreign capital to come in and augment the capital that is there in the country at the moment. Without this, a lot of the things that we have achieved, we would never have achieved. For example, if you take a look at the airports, if you've traveled through Delhi, Bombay, Mumbai, Calcutta, any of these airports in maybe 15 years ago, before 2010, you would have found them in very bad shape, in a state of disrepair. And you look at them today and see how much they have improved. They are absolutely world class. In fact, Delhi and Bombay regularly rank amongst the best airports in the world today. So, it is helping. It is augmenting all sorts of infrastructure development, whether it's from building of roads to development of power plants, ports, you name it, there is foreign capital flowing in there. It is also helping your domestic industry gain access to capital and technology which they would have never had access to. For example, look at telecom, and you see how much that has changed over the years. So, there's a lot of technology that's flowing in thanks to FDI. So these are really the benefits of FDI that has come in over the years. And also you must remember FDI is two-way. Okay, there is FDI coming into India. There's also FDI going out of India. Indian companies are expanding their reach and are investing in overseas market. I mean, if you look at the Tatas, for example, the recent Chorus deal, the Jaguar Land Rover deal, they have so many overseas brands which they have acquired. You look at the Mahindras and how they have ventured into South Korea. You look at and how they have ventured into many markets. So, Indian companies are also investing abroad, and when they invest in these overseas market, they are also that is also considered FDI.
Indeed, sir. I think you have given a very insightful answer. And sir, my next question to you is: according to World Investment Report 2020 of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, India jumped from 12th spot in 2018 to 9th spot in 2019 on the list of global top 20 recipients of FDI. In other words, India was among the top 10 recipients of the FDI. Why has India suddenly become a hotspot for foreign investment? Why are foreign investors making a beeline to invest in India?
Well, if you really look at it, it's one. Of course, we have a very large middle class, a very large population which is consuming products. 350 million people almost, which is equal to the size of the United States. The entire population of the United States is just the size of our middle class. So it's a very large market for any one company to get into. and so that attracts a lot of companies to come into India. There is also a huge talent base in India. So you have fantastic educational institutions all over the country, from which many companies who are investing in India can sort of draw their resources from. So that's another major attraction. A lot of companies have set up R&D bases in India. Then there are fantastic science and technology in engineering institutes in India from which they are attracting talent from. Uh, the other thing is that we speak the English language. We have a stable law and order regime. So all of these put together make India an attractive investment destination. Of course, more recently, what India has been doing is that it's been working to make the process of investing in India much more simpler. So it has improved its ease of doing business over time, and we are now at something like 65 in the ease of doing business rankings of the World Bank. So we are making steady progress. We want to be in the top 50, and that is our aspiration. And I'm sure with a little more effort, we'll get there. So, you know, taking all these factors together, that is helping India attract a lot of foreign investment into the country. Okay, and of course, with India investing in different countries, what's also happening is that we are slowly creating value chains. So, some part of a product will be manufactured in India, some part of it in some other country, and so on and so forth, till a final product is assembled somewhere and sold somewhere else. So, we're also getting into that process, that chain, especially in the automotive industry. So, that also in there.
Indeed, sir, you have told many important things, and I think it was a quite insightful answer from your side. Sir, on September 25, 2014, the Indian government announced the Make in India initiative to encourage manufacturing in India and galvanize the economy with the dedicated investment in manufacturing and services. Immediately after the launch, investment commitments worth crore were announced. In the year 2015, India emerged as a top destination for foreign direct investment, surpassing the US and China. In line with the national programs, states to launch their own initiative. So, my question to you is how effective has the Make in India campaign been so far?
The Make in India campaign is not only meant for foreign companies investing in India, but it's also meant to encourage domestic manufacturing, which it has. Manufacturing is steadily going up. Of course, what was needed to go along with this was the process of ease of doing business. So that is now come into place, and companies are finding it much more easier to invest in India. Nevertheless, there are industries such as automotives, electronics, chemicals, capital goods, food processing, pharma, textiles. These have all attracted foreign investment into India. There are many companies operating in India now. If you look at pharmaceuticals, they're now considered the pharmacy to the world. So, there is a long way to go yet. I mean, the the vision is to make India a $10 trillion economy with 5 trillion coming from manufacturing. So there's still a long way to go there, but India is well on its way. There are many industries which have picked up. Many more can, um, come into place and grow at the same time.
Indeed, sir. So what we have seen is that in our recent budget of 2021, our finance minister announced that government have no business to be in the business and let the concept of privatization. Privatization is the word which is ruling the media and our minds. Sir, my question to you is: will privatization revive the economy? What are the impacts? Will privatization affect the people?
Privatization is only one part of a process. It's just one component of this entire process of reviving the economy. Um, so the thing is that privatization has happened in different formats over the years. In the early 90s, it was more about taking away the monopoly power of the PSU and introducing private sector players. So we saw it happening in airlines, we saw it happening in banking, the private sector in telecom. So private sector players came into these areas and introduced competition and improve service levels dramatically. So if you look at any of these industries in the early 1990s and compare it to the service levels today, you will find a vast difference that has come into play. So that has been the first step. In the entire thing. The second thing is actually to sell off, to strategically disinvest assets which the Indian government should no longer be running. I mean, way back in during the 50s and the 60s, take charge of the commanding heights of the economy. It was meant to be in the strategic sector. Okay, steel, heavy electricals, mining. So these were the core industries which really needed public investment, and that's why the public sector industries came up in these sectors. Now, over the years, that sort of expanded into many, many other industries, which the government really did not need to be in. For example, we got into the hotels business. We got into even at one point, the government was baking bread. There was a bakery called Modern Bakeries, which is being run by the government of India. Uh, that has since been disinvested. It's now with Hindustan Lever, I think. I may be mistaken. But it's been sold off to a private company. Um, so the idea is that there are many industries where it is now high time that the government allow the private sector to take over. That we look at other buyers for it. Uh, give it much more autonomy than it is enjoying at present. In many of these PSUs, for example, the board is not the highest authority. For certain heavy capital investments, they have to refer back to the parent ministry to get permission to invest. So this takes away from the autonomy and the functioning of the entire enterprise, uh, which needs to be corrected. And privatization helps that process. It helps give autonomy back to the enterprise and let the enterprise function on its own. So it gives back the power to the company and allows it to function independently. So you know it's I mean, I agree that there are many industries the government should not be in, and it's high time we identify those and strategically sell these companies out. This is not some people have compared it to the government selling its silver. It's not. It's actually unlocking the entrepreneurial value in these companies.
All right, sir. You have given again a very quite insightful answer from you have given, and I think the viewers those who are watching they are surely going to find this insightful. So my next question to you is, and I think this is the one of the most important and perhaps the most controversial one. Sir, India spending on R&D in terms of percentage of GDP has been stagnant at 0.6 to 0.7% in the last 2 decades. India's spending on R&D is well below than in major nations such as the US 2.8, China 2.1, Israel 4.3, and Korea 4.2. So, do you think India need to increase R&D investment to support the Make in India initiative?
Absolutely, it does. I mean, zero point 0.7 is a very low figure. There's tremendous scope for improvement there. But having said that, if you do the maths, and zero point 0.7 of 2 trillion is a very large number. It's larger than the GDP of many countries. There is a lot of good work that is being done in the private sector. A simple, very recent example is if you look at the vaccine that has been developed in India, a tremendous amount of effort was put in by an Indian company, Bharat Biotech, to develop Covaxin and has successfully come out with a vaccine. So there is a lot of work going on in India. India is also, as I pointed out earlier in one of the earlier questions, uh, it also attracts a lot of foreign companies who wish to move their global R&D centers out of their home countries and into India. The reason being is that there's a lot of basic research that needs to be done, and they find India a very good place to source engineers and to source scientists who will do this basic research for them. So GE and other companies have all moved their global R&D centers to India. R&D is being conducted here. Products are being designed here and are eventually being manufactured maybe here, maybe in some other country. So it's an entire global operation that is now taking place. So there is a lot of innovation that's happening. There is a lot of innovation that is happening in the automotive sector, for example, which is truly gone global. So there's a lot of work that's happening, and we must appreciate that. However, there's much more that can be done. A lot of our innovation has been in what we call Jugaad, but I think now is the time to formalize what we call Jugaad and make it into hardcore R&D and sort of formalize the process.
Indeed, sir, this is something we all need to genuinely appreciate. Sir, my next question to you is, as you have mentioned that our Prime Minister has led a vision of making India 5 trillion economy by the year 2025, making India a third biggest economy of the world, and currently we are 2.8 million trillion dollar economy. Sir, India is becoming a startup, a hub for startups. The number of startups year after year in India, creating an enormous pool for opportunities. More than 12,000 startups came up last year, according to NASSCOM. So my question to you is, how do you see the role of entrepreneurs in boosting Indian economy?
But this startup India has really unlocked hidden potential in India, and there are a lot of companies which are coming up and are young people with ideas uh, who have the flexibility and the bandwidth to implement these ideas and come up with something that is truly innovative. Let me give you, Paytm has changed the way we pay our bills and we, transfer money between each other. Oyo, Ola, they've all gone global. They're in different countries around the world and in a very short span of time. And they're household names actually now. So, and these are of course the large visible ones. There are lots of smaller startups which have come up, which are producing innovative ideas and solutions, which are really helping people change the way they do the day-to-day activities. So there's tremendous scope. The Indians are entrepreneurial by nature, and this entire process is sort of helping unleash that spirit in the economy. So it's good. It's a way of creating employment. So each entrepreneur is employing 2 to 3 people. So it's a good way to generate employment, to get these people out of other sectors where they're underemployed, like agriculture, and move them into a truly performing sector, and really unleash the potential of the economy.
Indeed, sir, it was a quite insightful answer. And sir, as you have mentioned, that government is really promoting the entrepreneurship within the country, whether it's Make in India, whether it is Atmanirbhar Bharat. Sir, we have seen that our government has understand the need, or we can say the emergency of entrepreneurship, and they have tried to set up the incubation center all over the country inside the colleges. Sir, my question to you is, do you support the idea of entrepreneurial teaching inside the colleges in higher education?
Uh, I would, rather than teaching per se, I like the concept of incubation centers, because I don't know how you can teach entrepreneurship, but you can help the person unleash his entrepreneurial spirit, help that person, grow his idea from a simple spark to something which is brick and mortar maybe, uh, and really take it off from there. So an incubation center is the way to go, is the way to get new ideas off the ground and get them into the market. IITs are doing it very successfully. A lot of good ideas are coming from there. So, we need much more. We need more than what we have right now.
Indeed, sir. It was again a quite insightful answer, and many of you, those who are watching, they are surely going to find this meaningful. Sir, I don't want to take you much time. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to learn from you. But today I don't want to take too much of your time. So moving to my last question of this session, sir. Actually, the question I have is that I have got this question from one of my subscribers. Sir, yes. Sir, actually, what we have seen is that our government is continuously promoting the entrepreneurship. How do you see, even if you see these, that India is the second largest tech-savvy country, India is the second largest mobile manufacturer in the world. Sir, how do you see the future of entrepreneurship, especially if we talk about the tech sector in India in the next 10 years?
Well, the lockdown, the COVID crisis, and the subsequent lockdowns, and this entire thing of work from home has really given a boost to the tech sector. Really, this is a trend that's not going to end. Once the COVID crisis is gone, but it's going to keep moving on. The fact that you and I can have this conversation right now is testimony to the fact that that there is the tech sector has leapfrogged light years ahead now. Earlier this technology was very cumbersome and very difficult to use. Now it's just clicking a button, feeding in a passcode, and you're speaking to somebody who's halfway across the world. So there is this huge future for the tech sector. Fintech has changed the way we operate in terms in the financial sector space. Digital tech is how we improve how we communicate with each other. Similarly, there'll be new applications that will come up in the coming years. I'm sure many more new applications will come up. It's just it's up to your imagination how you want to take it and where you want to grow it. But the future of the digital space is very bright.
All right, sir. It was again a very great answer, and I must say it was a kind of healthy conversation with you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and giving your important time. We look forward to conduct more such session with you in future. Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside, I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside, I'm alone.